the way these clusters of galaxies modify the images of the distant objects is just out of this world. They get literally spaghettified into strings and pencils and weird looking things. I'm Roger Windhorst, a Regents and Foundation Professor at the Arizona State University School of Earth and Space Exploration. I originally called it the horseshoe. It looks like a horseshoe, but my Spanish collaborator, Kema Diego, who's writing the paper, calls it the El Anzuelo, which is the Spanish word for fishhook. Yeah, and that's behind one of the most massive clusters we know, whose name is El Gordo, which is the big one, the fat one.
With Hubble, these galaxies end up being too faint and too red for Hubble to really see. So James Webb, being at the longer wavelengths and being more sensitive, is able to push even further back into the earlier days of the universe. My name is Patrick Kameneski. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the School of Earth and Space Exploration, and I study dusty galaxies that are forming stars very rapidly. El Anzuelo is a background galaxy that is lensed by a few of the galaxies as a part of the larger El Gordo cluster. So with this image, you can see sort of some yellowish galaxies, which are galaxies that are in the foreground cluster. But then you can also see this sort of redder, distorted light wrapped around those galaxies. And what's happening there is basically the foreground galaxies are a magnifying glass for the background object. But it's not a very nice, smooth, even magnifying glass because it depends on the gravity of the foreground galaxies. So it gets all distorted and we have to sort of account for that. But when we do that, we can actually see the background object at higher resolution than Webb can even give us on its own.
But the horseshoe, the El Anzuelo, the fishhook, I call it really Einstein's fishhook right now. That is just so absolutely stunning because it's, gravitational bending in full glory. It's just out of this world.
The light from the background galaxy gets sort of wrapped around into the shape of a fishhook. So our job is actually to undo that distortion so we can see what it would look like if it weren't lensed, but with the extra resolution from gravitational lensing. El Anzuelo is sort of unique in that it's one of these very distorted gravitationally lensed galaxies. And lensing is relatively rare. It's not something that we see everywhere. But with James Webb, these kinds of gravitationally lensed background galaxies are going to be much more interesting to study and much easier to study because we can see them with such greater detail than ever before.